Hey, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 24 of Backspace Nomads. We're recording this one on July 13th, 2017. My name is Brian. I'm one of the hosts here. And, of course, next to me, we have Monica. How you doing today, Monica?
I'm doing fantastic, Brian. How are you doing today?
I feel so good today. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm pushing through because I love you guys so much.
Can I tell them what special day is today?
Yes, you can.
Today, Brian marks the celebratory day that Brian came out of his mother's vagina.
How exciting.
Wailing and screaming.
Yep, just here I am, world.
Wait, right before or right after your brother?
Before. I was the first one out.
So today marks the celebratory day that he beat up his brother in the womb in order to be the first one out of his mom's vagina. Congratulations, Brian, and happy birthday.
Thank you, Mom. Thanks for popping me out.
Yep.
And it birthed a lifelong competition between me and my brother.
Good job,
Yep.
Mom.
So on the pod today, we're going to be reviewing the new game from Versus Evil, Antihero. After that, Moblord joins us as our guest, where he's going to be filling out dating character profile in a segment we called Video Dating Game before he shares his time of game. You can find us on Twitter at Backspace Nomads, Instagram at Backspace Nomads, and on Facebook under the same name. But let's jump right into our game review for Antihero. Antihero was released July 10th, 2017 for $14.99. You can find it on Steam, developed by Tim Conkling, published by Versus Evil. It's an indie strategy game. Antihero is a fast turn-based strategy game with a Oliver twist. Recruit street urchins, hire thugs, start a game, upgrade your guild, steal everything, and bribe, blackmail, and assassinate your way to victory. This game includes a story-driven campaign, AI skirmishes, and an intense online and offline PvP mode. Going into it, what were your expectations for Antihero, Monica?
So I was actually very excited about it. I tend to enjoy games like this that are almost just video game board games in a sense. I have loved them and I've hated them, but I definitely am prone to wanting to try them out. So I was very excited about this. This is a title that we found together, and I was like, yeah, we've got to do this one. And it reminded me a little bit of Armello, which I've played in the past, which I liked. I easily got sucked into it. I loved just the, getting through one game and going up against another. And this intrigued me because it's not just, you can do the kind of the campaign. You can also play against other people. And I like that mix.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty excited about this one. What about you?
Yeah, I know you kind of pointed this game out to me, and immediately I was taking, this game just looks like it has really great style. The board game aspect was very apparent. I don't know if it was the angle that you're looking at the game from, and I don't think I've played a game like that on the PC where it was like a board game. So I was excited to get into it. It kind of has this old school English feel, almost like Gangs of New York type of vibe going on. So I was really kind of pumped to get into it and to see what it was all about. So let's start off with some of the things that we liked about it.
Did you just say old school English feel like Gangs of New York?
Yeah, that old school that time period, old school English time period, and then if the movie Gangs of New York, one of the characters in it has that mustache that the butcher had in Gangs of New York.
I just thought that you thought New York was in England.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, I mean York was all right.
Okay, true. So one of the things that I really liked, you kind of started hitting on this just from the get-go, was the aesthetic of the game. I liked the look and feel of it. I thought that the landing page when you're very first starting up the game is a little simple. There's not I don't need anything crazy, but I jumped onto it and I was like, oh man, is this what I thought? And then I jumped into the game and everything started looking exactly how I wanted it to. The art style is fun. The art style actually reminds me a little bit of Don't Starve.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a cute, quirky art style, and so I really liked the aesthetic. I liked the characters that they created. It was just overall an enticing visual game.
Yeah. I think I gotta like kind of piggyback on that with the art and also bring like the sound into this game. Everything they did like really fit what they were trying to achieve, and like they didn't skimp on it. All the assets in this game are done like very well, very stylized. It looks like they're like they actually like put time and love into like their craft and not just pumping out assets because this is some game, but this is almost like their baby. And so the art was on point, the sound was on point, like the narrator in this game, like you could
narration was good.
You could feel how much they loved making this game and wanted to make a really great product.
Right.
What else were you?
So I think one of the things that with these games is that sometimes like I call it video game board game. It's a strategy game, but,
sure.
But the way it's presented is almost like board game-esque. And
Mm-hmm.
and one thing that I like about tend to not like about games like this is if they're too complex. This game though was a good combination where it's complex to the point where when you first started off, you're like, oh God, there's so much to know. I'm in over my head.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get this? I kind of had that like panic sense of like, this is a lot. But I am well versed enough in these types of games to realize that you will get the hang of it. And then once you get the hang of it, that the true game comes out. And I think that this game, what I liked was that it was intimidating at first. But it didn't bore quickly,
right?
For me. So I really liked that it seemed like a good balance for like just the entertainment level.
Absolutely. And I think like the way the characters, like there is a little bit of a, like you get into it, it does feel a little bit overwhelming, but then very quickly you realize that that's it. Like here are like, you know, a handful of things you have to know. And they are simple, like you were saying. And then once you start putting things together, I think that was one of the most enjoyable part to me, is how these characters interact with each other. How you use, there are these thugs that they don't last very long, but you can put them on the board and it blocks unless you set up other plays. And that is just,
right.
There is depth there. And there's
a lot of depth to the strategy.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of elements. I mean, if we could go, we could spend an entire hour like talking about all of the elements to the strategy. But there are like things that you can throw out there to like really throw your opponent off.
Yep.
And yeah, there like you said, there's a lot of depth.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. I also like. Do you like the upgrade system?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was fun. I don't know that I spent enough time in the game to like really milk it for what it was worth, but you know, what did you like about it?
Like, I don't know how I felt about it because it felt good in the game, but I think the thing I liked most about it is how you're able to access it during your turn. It's not like you started your turn, spent your points, and that was it, or you did that at the end of your turn. You're able to start playing your turn a little bit, and then once you see what's going on, kind of how your enemy has set you up for these like traps and stuff they laid out for you, you're able to go into your upgrades in the middle of that turn and like work it the way you want to. Like that is a really kind of unique aspect of this game, and I don't necessarily know like how they came to the decision, if it was like completely intentional, but it worked out fantastic, and I love that. And I wish strategy games would sometimes employ that more after seeing this and like see how much fun just comes from that.
Right. It makes you feel like your turn, you can like do more with it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of strategy with the upgrades too.
Sure.
Like, you know, one of the things I think I liked maybe the most about the game is just kind of the quirkiness.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of like, I think this goes along with the fine details that you like, how you said that they really made a whole game here, and they really did. They follow they're following definitely an art style and just a style in general, but their quirkiness comes through even with like their wording.
Yep.
You know. And I that's fun for me, you know. I don't view it as childish or anything like that. I view it as like exactly what I would want in this type of setting.
All right, I think we're kind of gushing over this game a little bit, so let's get into the things that we disliked.
Okay, so one of the things that I really so there's a lot of strategy. I talked about how much strategy there is in this game.
Yeah.
But there's also just a lot of luck.
Sure.
So when you're up against your opponent, like you can almost sabotage yourself very early on and not realize it.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of luck that happens in this game. So I guess as much as I love the strategy component of it, I was also like, the luck is almost as prevalent as the strategy.
Yeah, you're definitely in the dark about what your opponent's doing until you stumble on it, and like you do get unlucky because you just don't see some of the stuff coming. I can see that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like an anti-fun thing, which kind of rolls into something I disliked about it, which was how the units did decay, and like you could only use certain units for 2 turns and they went away. It's just, I don't know if it's just me, it's a personal thing, I'm not sure, but like in a strategy game, I want to be building something, not having to replace these things. Like I wish I was building this like stronger net of things, but instead I'm just like, I felt like I was replacing stuff that I already had set up, and it's just a small part that really took away, because there are so many little gameplay aspects to this and like mechanics, that one thing, like because of that, it really kind of took away from it more than probably it would in other games.
And I think that actually blends into my next point, is that these games can sometimes run a little long, or it feels like it's running long. And I think that what you're talking about there adds to that longer feeling.
Yeah.
Some of the games are like exciting, and then some of them are a little bit more tedious.
Yes.
And you just feel like you're going back and forth without like when will it end?
Yeah.
You know?
I think they said like an online game, expect to play it for like 30 to 40 minutes.
Right.
That feels like a long time for this type of game, which doesn't, I don't know if I can commit to that in my day. Like I really have to block that out to play this game. And I'm not sure if it warrants that.
Well, and I guess it's almost like if you have friends over and you bust out a board game, it's like, hey, you call your friend up, you're like, hey, you want to play a round of this? And you sit down and you play a round, and that's like you've completed the game, you know? So
sure.
I don't know.
Anything else for you?
I do. I hated, why are these little boys being the ones that are infiltrating? So one of the tactics in this game is that you can get these urchins, and they can, after you scout a building, you can send your urchins in to infiltrate. And the urchins are like little boys. How are they infiltrating these banks? How come no one's noticed that these urchins are working at these banks? Why are they so little? How come when you go to a teller and you see a 6-year-old checking you out, you know, or getting you your cash, you're going to ask questions. They failed there.
All right. A lack of a reality. Just take you right out of it. I got you. I think the last thing for me that I kind of dislike was just the lack of a really engaging story. There's kind of like these little blips of like, hey, this thief is stealing stuff. We're going to go stop him. And I don't know, it made me feel a little disengaged at times, I guess. I wasn't like fully into it. I definitely didn't make the leap about little boys being bank tellers that you did. So maybe you had that going for you, but I wish they. I
always have those types of things going for me, Brian.
I've noticed. This is episode 24. I've noticed. Any other dislikes?
No, that was it. But as to what you just said right now, you know, I agree with you. One of the things I didn't bring up in my review at all was the story, just because I didn't feel like it played a big enough role to like really warrant whether I liked it or not, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I
like it definitely feels like the story was an afterthought or something they really didn't like feel like they needed to put time into. And because they gave me like a little bit of story, that hurt them more than if it would just been like, hey, here's our game.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to commit if you're going to do any kind of story in a game. Final thoughts for Antihero.
I am definitely a thumbs up on this. This is a normally $15 game, $14.99 on Steam, and it's currently on a 10% sale until like what, the 17th here.
Yeah.
So it's $13.49 right now. If you like board games and if you know, or strategy games in this sense, I think that this is something that you should pick up. For at this, especially at this price point. But even if it was a little bit more, I feel like this is a very solid game, and it fits the criteria of a successful game within this category. So I'm a thumbs up. I recommend it. And get those little boys in those banks. You know, get them working for you.
Child labor is cheap.
Yeah, child labor is cheap. Your little urchins.
I'm gonna go ahead and be right there with you. Thumbs up. This game has a really solid presentation. There's kind of like some rough edges like here and there, but overall, the developers knew what type of game they wanted to make, and they leaned into the simplicity and really let those. This is a smaller game that they made. They made that shine because of it. So if you're into like board games, like you said, you're gonna love this. If you're not, maybe wait for a bigger sale. It's probably gonna be on Humble Bundle. It seems like one of those games that's coming down the line for it. But so if you're not into these strategy games, definitely when this game comes on sale, pick it up for this. I had a blast playing it, and I didn't even get into any of the online multiplayer yet, which
That's
sounds
where
like
the challenge comes in too, because
yeah,
the AI is not super complicated to
No.
fight. But yeah, I think playing against other players would like just be almost like rage inducing, or like fist pump inducing, you know. So
sure. All right,
two
so
side effects.
2 thumbs up for Antihero from Backspace Nomads. You can find it on Steam for $14.99 on sale right now for $13.49. Developed by Tim Conkling, published by Versus Evil. Go ahead and grab yourself a drink, maybe a little snack for yourself, because we're going to intermission. And when we come back, Moblord from the party is going to be with us. I'll be right back, everybody. Coming on the podcast today, we have Moblord. Moblord, you can find him at Twitter at Moblord TV. He is the co-manager for The Party, a stream team on Twitch. He is also the community director for Streamer News. You can find that at streamernews.tv. Moblord, welcome to the podcast, man.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Yes. Hello, guys. It's been an honor being here already. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, you're welcome.
Absolutely.
We have the best rollouts for people here. So what are you up to, man? What are you doing on Twitch right now?
Well, I would say that I'm relaxing because, I'm not working as an admin anymore, and that was like my life for a long time. I would say that I'm gaming again and having, just the best time hanging out with my son and all that stuff. But really, honestly, I've just been doing more work. I can't seem to get rid of projects. So it's something for Viewboat or something for Streamer News or something for, I've always got side projects going on. So staying busy.
So the party is currently actually partaking in the game that we reviewed tonight, which we didn't really realize was going to be happening. You guys were doing this the same time we were reviewing the game until like a day before. So tell us about what the stream team that you helped co-create is up to with Antihero and what you can look for.
So if people don't know, the party is a stream team. I think we have 8 broadcasters now, and we have kind of a good chill vibe, but we have something kind of unique because it's managed. So it's myself and Santa Devs, Josh, or sometimes he's known by, and then we have Joel, who's a lawyer, and we have the ability with 3 managers to come up with some cool promotions and do some hands-on management for our streamers and sometimes find deals for them or sponsorships or stuff like that. So it's kind of a different take on a streaming team because a lot of times it's just a group of friends.
Sure.
Mhm.
And so with this particular promotion with Versus Evil's Antihero game, we'd been friends with them for a long time. We've helped them pitch and promote some of their past releases. They're a great indie dev company to work with, and we've been very proud to be one of the first people to run some kind of a sponsored or paid promotion with Versus Evil for this. So we're going to be doing stuff all week long. We've got duels between like two different members of our community. We'll do head to head, and whoever wins gets some additional game keys that they can give out to their community.
Nice.
Fun.
And then like some bragging rights and stuff like that. So we're going to be, really pumping out some good content over the next week. We've got a schedule kind of going on for this game, and this wasn't on purpose at all.
Right.
We had no idea that this was happening, but
The
yeah,
universe loves us.
we literally just finished inking the deal like earlier today, so it just was really good timing all around.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's kind of bizarre, but works out really, really well.
Yeah.
Well, we're super glad to have you with us and very excited for the segments that we have tonight. Time of game and the one coming up, which Brian, I'll let you go ahead and jump into that.
So I've been kind of lonely lately. I just, I'm not getting everything I need in life, and I want to start dating, My girlfriend's going to love me, by the way. So we're going to, on the cast tonight, play the video dating game. Monica and Moblord are both going to take on a different gaming character, kind of an anti-hero in gaming, sort of the bad boys. And I'm going to ask them a series of questions, and then at the end of it, I'm going to decide who gets this pretty prize here, who's the lucky one.
Who gets to bring you chicken noodle soup because you're sick?
Ooh, I am a little stuffy
Bonus
tonight.
points.
All right. Moblord's taking the lead already. All right. So, Moblord, which gaming character?
Wait. Oh, you're asking that.
Yeah.
I was like, we don't want to say who I am.
Yeah, no.
Sorry,
Well, people aren't
going
gonna guess. People aren't gonna guess from my voicing of it, so it's probably best that you ask.
Yeah. So, who are you taking on the role of tonight?
Well, tonight, I've chosen for my anti-hero is GLaDOS from the Portal series.
All right. And,
because who wouldn't want to date GLaDOS?
who doesn't want that synthetic love? Oh,
Yeah.
Monica, which gaming character are you taking the role of?
I'm going to be Kratos from God of War franchise.
Kratos from God of War. Just
Yes.
a lot of muscles to keep me warm and friendly.
Very excited to find out if you will love me.
Okay. So, the first question, we'll throw this one to Moblord. Would you, GLaDOS, like to be famous? And in what way?
Has somebody been talking about me? Like, what have you heard? Because I all I do is run a science and research facility, and I don't. Has somebody been who are you? Would you like to come to our research facility? I could set up a nice batch of cake.
All right. You like to keep it low key, bake for one-on-one? Kratos, same question.
I only wish to feel the mist of blood for those who stand in my way.
So, not famous, I guess. No one is gonna know who you are. You're killing them all.
Fame does not intrigue me.
All right, GLaDOS, what would constitute a perfect day for you?
A perfect day would obviously be a day when the testing goes, just right, where we have, plenty of neurotoxins. We've got the lab all set up. We've got a great group of people who some might have to die, but others may complete the testing.
All right.
And at the end, there'll be cake. And that would be
would
be my perfect day.
You're a greater good type of robot. Okay. Kratos.
Nothing would suit me better than to clear Olympus of the filth that believes themselves safe there, and then just shit in their toilets and not flush.
Okay. GLaDOS, do you have a secret hunch about how you will die?
I in my robotic dreams, where I dream of robotic sheep, I often get this vision that someday I will be placed into the form of a potato, and that a long fall through a dark hole, I will meet my demise.
Okay, that's bleak, but it's honest. Thank you. Kratos, do you have a secret hunch about how you will die?
Been there, done that. Not even gods can stand in my way.
Okay, you're very confident about resurrection. Very Jesus Christ of you.
Mm-hmm.
GLaDOS.
I don't know what that means.
It's before your time. Sorry.
Oh, gotcha.
If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be?
I was not raised. I was given feelings instantaneously, and I became aware that I was the greatest good that the world had ever seen. And in that way, I feel like my raising was sufficient.
Nice. No regrets. I like that about
No
person
regrets.
or robot. Kratos.
Looking back does not allow you to move forward. Plus, there is nothing to change about a Spartan warrior.
That's some full-on confidence. Thank you. Just
You're welcome.
Little much, Kratos. Like, it's just
You're
dating.
welcome. You're welcome. I'm trying my best here.
Okay. GLaDOS, if you could wake up tomorrow having gained just one quality or ability, what would it be?
Probably deadlier neurotoxin, which I feel like is the important spark that's necessary in any good relationship. And,
Okay.
if we could make it cake flavored, I think that would be really ideal.
I'm not sure who the producers think they want to put me on a date with between the two of you. Kratos, if you could wake up tomorrow having gained one quality or ability, what would it be?
I think I would like to be able to turn into a little rabbit.
A what?
A small little baby bunny. A small baby bunny!
Okay. Very insightful. Thank you for sharing. GLaDOS, what is your most terrible memory?
This one time at band camp, when I was just a small computer, I was grounded without electricity for an hour, and that was the worst hour of my life.
Thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable with me. Kratos, same question.
No memories terrify. Actually, my wife and child dying in a fire was not very good.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're single though. That's nice to know. GLaDOS.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. What does friendship mean to you?
Friendship is probably one of the best motivators that I have to get people to take part in my experiments. So friendship to me is highly useful, at least at a surface level.
Okay. I'm looking for something maybe a little deeper. I don't know. Kratos, what does friendship mean to you?
More weight to carry.
Okay, lone wolf. Okay. GLaDOS. Sorry. GLaDOS, complete the sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share.
Science.
Nice. I like a good mind. Kratos, complete this sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share.
My workout routine.
Oh,
These abs do not create themselves.
nice. CrossFit. I like that. Last question. before we decide who goes on the date, GLaDOS, your house containing everything you own catches fire. After saving your loved ones and your little pets, you have time to safely make a final dash to save one item. What would it be and why?
I always knew that they were trying to burn down my laboratory. I suspected this from the start. It was Shell again, wasn't it? That's okay. Even though you tried to kill me, I still would serve you cake.
You know, I like a girl who feeds her man. Kratos, same question.
I don't understand. Who put these questions together? GLaDOS has been burned. I wear the ashes of my family upon my skin. One item I would save? I am going Dutch on this date. Final answer.
Okay. I appreciate your independence. Don't get me wrong, Kratos. That's a very nice quality in someone.
Thank you.
You know, I just got out of a really long relationship. Your intensity, maybe is not something I'm ready for. So it's me. I'm sorry, but GLaDOS, you're the person I would like to share a cake with. Thank you.
There will be cake.
Nice. Good Lord.
I will feel the mist of your blood upon my skin. Thank you for inviting me here.
You're welcome. It's nice to have you here. It's just fucking ridiculous, dude.
Could you just do that voice for the rest of the show?
Yeah. Like, for real, like.
Sure. Let's do it.
I couldn't commit to a voice. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
glad
you're
I was
fine.
out of my range.
I started to forget what you actually sounded like. You put me into the scene with Kratos, so good job. So thank you for getting weird with this, Moblord. That's one of the weirder segments I think we put anyone through here.
I love it.
So thank you, my dude. So now what we're gonna do is have you share your time in game. Time in game is a segment where we have gamers come on and share stories from their life where gaming is kind of an aspect and is connected. So, Moblord, what is your time in game?
So I had to really think about this because I don't game all that much anymore, but there's been periods in my life where I've disappeared into games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably the story that comes to me the most when I think about a moment in time was, it was at a funeral. It was my grandmother, and it occurred to me how much of an addiction that I had to EverQuest.
Mm.
So let me back up to
Sure.
kind of explain what EverQuest meant to me first of all. So EverQuest it's kind of the old school hardcore. Like, if you don't know how to run 30 different button combinations at once, you're not really anybody kind
Sure.
of a game.
I'm such a loser.
It wasn't meant to be easy. It wasn't meant to look good. It was just meant to be the real MMORPG grandfather. And that's kind of the mindset of a lot of the people who played the game. And even when EverQuest 2 came out and World of Warcraft eventually came out, those games were kind of scoffed because they made things too easy. Oh, you can just hit 4 buttons and just go all the way through the game.
Yeah.
But I started playing back in 1999, like when the game first came out. I wasn't really hooked then. I think I was in high school. But in a couple of years after that, I went to college, and my cousins were playing the game. And because of my cousins, I started to get even more involved. And
Was it because you guys were doing something together and you enjoyed their company and then it bled into just like
yeah, so
playing it all the time? Or
it was kind of misery likes company. So
Yeah.
they had addictions since the beginning. I didn't have an addiction early on, but they did. And what would happen is if I wanted to spend time with them, I was playing this game with them, and it would get to the point where we would, on weekends, maybe their girlfriends were out of town, or later their wives or whatever, we would all gather up all of our big heavy desktop computers and the CRT monitors, that went with them, like all lug them over to one location just so that we could spend the weekend all in the same group, raiding together and drinking Mountain Dew all weekend and smelling terrible and staying up all hours, just straight EverQuesting all the way through the weekend.
The real type of quest where you get stinky, but instead of it being from like going through muck, it's just for sitting there and walking through muck.
Yeah, nobody really leaves. You plan ahead, you get your snacks, and you get your pizza on deck, and you just kind of go crazy for a weekend. And that happened a lot, actually. And this continued for a few years. Eventually, they graduated, and I was still there because I wound up getting a job with a college that I had previously gone to school at, and so I was their head IT guy. Just another whole story, because I didn't go to school to be an IT guy. In fact, I've not even had any formal computer training at all. So it's an even weirder story. But I got really bad, and I was just solo at this point. They weren't there anymore, and I was just playing all the time. And it was,
what's all the time? Just like from wake up, when you're not at work, you're pretty much on.
It was literally every minute that I was not at work, and then quite a few of the minutes that I was supposed to be working. And I don't know how many hours that it wound up being, because everything is just there's like a 6-month period in there, and this is probably in like 2005.
Right.
There's like a 6-month period in there that's just nothing happened except for EverQuest. And I thought that I was healthy. I think because some of it's like, oh, I'm being sociable. I have friends in the game, and I did. There's people who were calling me up on the phone or adding me on Facebook, or they became. I knew more about them and their kids and their dogs and their entire life history, the people that I was hanging out with all day, every day, than I knew about my own family members, because I was spending every hour of every day with these people. There was like a few people in particular, like a real, tight-knit group that I was just spending so much time with, that there was nobody in my life that was closer.
Sure.
Right.
And honestly, that was kind of half sad, but at the time it was, I would go to work, and I was supposed to be working on my job, as an IT guy, and I would be sitting there looking up crafting recipes and, making my spreadsheets and my notebooks. Back in those days, you had to calculate your DPS manually. And that's a lost skill, by the way, because every game tells you what your DPS is.
Do you have that on your resume? Like, can calculate DPS manually? Like,
well,
really
if you want to talk about resume, I actually did put this on a resume once. I was not only like a guild leader, which I did that for a while, but like I was a multi-guild raid leader. And that was, that's, now you're talking, now you've got some responsibility, because now, you've got to make sure everybody's lined up. You got to make sure they've all got their right, their key and progression system to be able to get into the raid levels. You got to keep track of all that stuff. You got to make sure that you got all the classes present, so that you can get a proper successful raid going. You got to make sure that you've got all these separate text channels, because you got your channel that's got all the healers, chained up in their progression orders, and you got your tanks and their progression orders, and I was getting really, really, really into this stuff. Like, you can probably get a sense of that. But
you're in the weeds, man. Like, you got in the weeds of it. You're loving it.
I was so far in the weeds, and any kind of break or distraction from the gaming at all, like, there was a ton of waiting, by the way, in the game, and maybe you already know that if you know anything about EverQuest, but a ton of waiting. Like, you would sit there waiting for your raid to get together, or waiting for somebody to get home from work, or waiting for a certain boss to spawn, and maybe that boss only spawned once every 4 hours, and you got to sit there and wait for it. You got to camp it because somebody else might come up and get it, and you got like a line waiting for some of these guys.
Yep.
And so, what you're doing is you're sitting there chatting, but what you don't want to happen is any kind of interruption. So you don't want your family to be calling you, or a friend saying, hey, let's go hang out and play somewhere, or play sports, or do something else. I thought all that stuff was worthless, because I had the one objective, like total blinders. I've got to do this. People are counting on me. It's a mindset, because I'm the raid leader. If I'm not there, who's going to do it? And it got really, really bad. My health was suffering. My relationships were suffering. I really distinctly remember cutting things off with several different females before it got too serious, because that would have taken away from my raiding time. And Friday nights, prime raiding time.
Right.
I couldn't just go do that.
You're like, hell no, we can't go to the movies. What's wrong with you? I'm sorry, this isn't gonna work out.
I've already got my entertainment. Why should I have to spend more money on something else?
Yeah.
I've got my monthly subscription. What more do you need? But
so you're deep into the game. You're starting to see some of your outside relationships suffer. And did you notice it right off the bat? Or
I kind of just didn't care. I didn't really care about any of that stuff. Everything was a distraction. Nothing else mattered. The only thing that was important to me is becoming like the #1 tank on that particular server, which I don't think I got to be #1, but I was maxed. I tried to stay maxed out. As new expansions came out and new things opened up, I tried to stay maxed, and it was like a pride point too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And back in those days, and I say that it's a different time with different levels of success. So it wasn't an easy thing to max out a character back then. Like to get from like level 1 to whatever the maximum level was measured in months or more. Not like, it wasn't just like a weekend thing. You had to. If I was to go into some of these characters now, and I haven't booted the game up in a long time, but you type in /played and it'll tell you how many hours. My time in some of those characters is measured in years, not not months, not days, years.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Like those old MMOs, there was something about them where like people would lose, like you said, years, and like you don't even realize it at all.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who started early on in WoW probably have similar stories. But this was maybe a little bit before WoW, but it was called Evercrack for a reason.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of other games at that time that could offer that big of a world and that big of an experience in the world as that game. So I think that's why it had such a hook on people. I don't think that a game coming along like that now doesn't catch people the same way. Like, when's the last time you talked to somebody now who has a Black Desert Online or Final Fantasy addiction that was that bad?
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just like at the time there was a lot of people who went through the same thing that I did, and I occasionally find them and we kind of reminisce about times that, we were hanging on this such and such a plane in EverQuest, and I remember how bad it was when you got killed. You lost, you could de-ding, which means you've lost so much experience from dying that you lose a level. And no current game would ever do that because it's like so harsh on the players, but EverQuest didn't care. EverQuest was hardcore.
Right.
So you reminisce about those things with other people, but to be honest, it was only good because that's all we knew. And,
Right.
Probably not all that great now. So the whole summer, like I said, like a 6-month period, I was by myself. It wasn't with cousins anymore. I had gotten so much of the bug that it was just me all the time. And around Thanksgiving, I remember getting a call, and I hadn't talked to my parents in a long time. I hadn't talked to hardly anybody. My family was kind of this thing that I used to know that I don't really hear about. They seem nice, but I don't really know them. But my grandmother unexpectedly passed away kind of in the middle of the night. just real unexpected. She wasn't sick. She was actually a pretty strong person.
Yeah.
Just unexpectedly passed away. And, could you come to Florida? And, we're going to have this funeral, and you're going to be there for a few days, because we haven't had time to connect as a family. So it kind of became this reunion thing.
Right.
And so, going down there for 3-4 days, and, it was on a weekend, which obviously was my rating time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being more sad about losing the rating time than I was about losing my grandmother. And I remember being super frustrated about missing out on things and missing maybe it was a special weekend, I don't remember, but for whatever reason, it was just like really bothering me to step away from all that stuff to go down to Florida. And I'm down there, and I'm like trying to figure out how, on terrible internet, how I could like remote connect into my computer to still be able to, I don't know, do something on my computer to still play.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember just sitting there, on a bench, kind of like by myself, families all talking or whatever, and just being like, this is so frustrating. Why did I have to be here all these days? I just want to get back. I just want to play the game.
Come for the funeral or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And and then I was like, it hit me like, this is a new level, even for you, Moblord. This is a new level.
Yeah.
This is your flesh and blood here. This is the grandmother that would send you $100 bills for Christmas and for birthdays. This is the grandma who would always call you and encourage you. This is the grandma who would always challenge you to arm wrestling because she thought she was stronger than you. And this is yeah, this is she was a great lady. I didn't see her very often, but
right.
the fact that I was more worked up about missing a game than missing my grandmother suddenly hit me as, you Moblord are a very selfish person. This is not a normal perspective on life to have.
Right.
Sure.
Your in-game family is not real family. This is your real family.
Yeah.
And why aren't you spending more time with your real family?
Yeah.
Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? Do you want to be lonely, alone, solo playing EverQuest the rest? Like there's what is the end to this? What is the end game here? So I'm like, having all of these thoughts about like introspection.
Right.
Sure.
It almost sounds like you were experiencing loss from like losing that weekend, and like the loss of like your grandmother. Like it took some weight. Like how many days into this trip did you start recognizing these feelings? It seems like at first you're like, God, like I'm gonna lose out on EverQuest, on this raid that I've got happening this weekend, and then slowly like the loss of like the person that maybe you didn't really know.
That's exactly
but,
it.
Like, it weighed out, and then when you started paying attention to that other loss, it was like totally tipped the scales.
That's exactly it. And I think that actually, like if you were to study it like medically, it was maybe a sign of an actual addiction, because
Sure.
an actual chemical addiction where your brain is taking the good signals of leveling up and playing the game and turning those into endorphins, that whole cycle that you go through where you kind of like need that to keep going.
Yeah.
And then you go through a withdrawal, which I later kind of thought, well, this is like withdrawal symptoms, which is weird to be talking about for a game because it's not chemical or anything else.
Right.
It's all in your head. But I very much think that it's like any other, if like, a chemical removal from something, you would eventually have a period too where it would sink in what was actually going on with your body. Like you're blind to it, then all of a sudden it becomes clear what's going on. And I feel like that's what happened over that weekend. And it took a few days for me to get there. At first I was just annoyed by everything.
Yeah.
But a few days in, and that's what happened.
Yeah. Wow. So what's the aftermath? I mean, you started feeling that way. I'm assuming you didn't quit cold turkey. You had to have gone back. So like, you know, a quick version of like the, obviously now we realize, like you even said at the beginning of this, like you don't play games heavily anymore. You're still, but that party, that like raid, you know, like you still have that in your soul. I mean, you're
somewhere deep down,
that
somewhere
project
deep down.
Management.
I know that it's still there.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's coming out with things like the party and with streamer news. You know, you are a planner. You are getting people together. You know, you had even mentioned before the show that you're putting together this cruise where 300 people are coming. I mean, that might as well just be a raid that you a raid cruise. You know what I mean? But you've affiliated it with like things in your like actual tangible life that you can touch. Right. And that's really awesome to me. Like, it seems like personality traits were being thrown into the game that now are being thrown into like these extracurricular or, you know, jobs that do really cool things for you. But you didn't quit cold turkey, I'm guessing.
No, I should have. What should have happened, I'll just tell you what should have happened. I should have like come home, taken my character, put it up on eBay and sold it like a lot of people do, and made, you know, $1,500 or whatever the top level characters were going for. It was over $1,000 that people were getting for these things. I should have just taken it and sold it cold turkey and never looked back. And that's not what happened. I kind of was off and on after that point for the next 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
Sure.
It eventually just kind of petered out. I got engaged, or, you know, I started hanging out with girls again.
Yeah.
And so eventually it just kind of naturally died. And it wasn't something that I wanted to happen. Like, I didn't plan, like, I'm going to wean myself off of it. It just kind of naturally happened. And at first the idea really annoyed me. I couldn't have quit cold turkey. I'll tell you that would have messed me up really bad. Yeah. And I have had other games that I've gotten into deeply. There was a game called Enemy Territory that came after that. It was a free online multiplayer first-person shooter game in the Wolfenstein series. And I got to be in the top 30 in the world of the players. And I started competing, and that competing led to these clan meeting things to plan these matches, and then that led into a bigger guild, which I founded, and I again found myself organizing. I think you're right. It did actually teach me some life skills, or maybe taught me something about myself, which I didn't necessarily.
You're totally an organizer, dude.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention to it at first. Well, eventually it's like
EverQuest.
Eventually, like, everything I do in life turns into a series of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking or exaggerating about that at all. Spreadsheets in EverQuest, you should have seen them. I had the best spreadsheets.
But now you're calculating DPS, but your DPS calculation is about things that actually are happening in your life, which is like really rad. You know?
I mean, I think I learned a lot through it. I think, you know, I learned that I can be an organizer, and that I can even have a leadership voice, which I didn't see in myself before that point. I would have told you that I'm very much a follower before that. But if it's something that I know about and that I'm passionate about, I can organize it, and I can rely on the organization to kind of be a leader for the rest of the community. So before that point in time, I wasn't. After that point in time, I've done other things. I've been guild leader, you know, I've been team leader. I've done companies related to Twitch, and maybe I have EverQuest to thank. Maybe that's the takeaway here. I have EverQuest to thank for bringing traits out of me that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
You're a functioning addict. You made it work.
High functioning addict.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm addicted to the game. But yeah, there's no way that I could go back into a game that way again. I have too many responsibilities. You know, my son just turned 10 months old, and I spend all the time that I can with my wife and kid, and gaming time would be taken directly away from that. And a younger, more immature me would have tried to sneak and game as much as possible anyways, because, you know, addictions. But now, you know, maybe, like you said, a high functioning addict, as long as I don't put myself in situations where it could be destructive, I can use it for good and not for evil.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that story with us. I honestly feel like I haven't had any. Oh no, that's not even true. You know, I have had some prolonged experiences, not necessarily with gaming, but I guess it's kind of a game. But it was like text-based role play. I was obsessed. Spent countless hours. So it was like borderline an insomniac because I had to go to school the next day. So that means I had to stay up all night in order to like write to people about what my character was doing. It was, you know, I was out of control for a long time. But yeah, I think that can resonate with a lot of different people, you know, and I'm really glad that you came on and you shared it with us. And I thought that was an excellent story. So thank you again, cool. Moblord, for coming on. Everyone, you can find Moblord on Twitter at Moblord TV. And then he's a member and co-creator of the party, as well as a community manager for Streamer News. Mm-hmm. So go check him out. You won't see him on EverQuest or any MMOs anytime soon, but he's got a lot of other events and awesome things that he's planning, and you should definitely go follow him and keep up with what he's doing. So thanks again for coming on, Moblord.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it so much.
That's it for episode 24 of Backspace Nomads. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.